Today, we're diving into one of the most emotional and unanswered relationships in One Piece history. How the story between Luffy and Boa Hancock will end. For years, Oda kept romance in the background. The focus was always freedom, adventure, and destiny. But now we're in the Final Saga, and this relationship can no longer remain just a comedic one-sided love. The invasion of Amazon Lily, Blackbeard's attack, the Seraphim threat, and pressure from the government. All of these show that Hancock isn't just a side character, she's one of the emotional key points of the final war. But before we start, I have to say this. You guys are my Straw Hat crew. And right now, the channel is dealing with a serious algorithm problem. Our videos aren't being recommended like they used to, so I really need your support. If you subscribe, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments, you can help push us back up again. Your support means a lot to me. If you're ready, let's begin. From the beginning, Boa Hancock has been the embodiment of contradiction. One of the strongest women on the seas, yet emotionally defeated by a single-person Monkey D. Luffy, what started as a comedic gag, turned into genuine loyalty through Marineford, Impel Down, and everything that followed. Hancock is no longer just a woman in love. She's an ally who would challenge the world for Luffy, a queen who changed the history of the Kuja, and a warrior who broke the chains of her past. So even if the story began as a joke, it deserves a symbolic ending. What sets this relationship apart from every other bond in One Piece is this. This love isn't just between two people. It's in conflict with a historical curse, the core theme of freedom and fate itself. Past Kuja queens either died because of love or abandoned their nation. Hancock will either be the first to break that fate or become a tragic figure who completes the curse on the biggest stage in history. That's why the ending is either complete freedom or complete loss. There is no gray area. And after chapter 1059, the picture became even darker. As soon as the Shichibukai system collapsed, Amazon Lily was attacked by both the Marines and Blackbeard, turning the island into a battlefield. If Rayleigh hadn't intervened, it would have been a massacre. We know Hancock chose to leave the island to keep her people safe. So, Hancock is no longer a passive leader. She's a character marching toward the final war. And now we reach the real question, what will this love become in the end? After Luffy achieves his dream, will he finally realize this love and return it, just like Roger did with Rouge? Or will Hancock lose control, like during the smoker scene in Marineford, and sacrifice herself while protecting Luffy when he's gravely wounded or unconscious? Both possibilities could become legendary moments in One Piece history, and we're going to examine both in detail. The first possible ending begins with Luffy gaining emotional maturity after becoming Pirate King. Luffy hasn't rejected romance because he lacks emotion. He did it because forming attachments before reaching his dream would limit his freedom. For someone who spent his entire life running toward the peak of freedom, this is consistent. And the strongest parallel here is he didn't pursue romance while living as a pirate, but after achieving his goal and finishing his journey, he formed a bond with Rouge, and Ace was born. The relationship was not part of the journey, it began after it ended. Luffy could follow the same path. Romantic realization may come at the very end. In this scenario, Hancock's love is finally reciprocated. But not in a cliché way. Luffy is still a man driven by freedom, still exploring the world, still refusing to fully settle down. But now he has people he chooses to keep by his side. Hancock transforms her long-held one-sided love into a quiet but powerful bond shaped by Luffy's newfound emotional awareness. Her love stops being a burden and becomes a choice that complements his freedom. Amazon Lily becomes a nation aligned with Luffy's ideals, open to the world, yet true to itself, and the centuries-old love-sickness curse is finally broken. One major foundation of the happy ending theory is that Luffy isn't truly indifferent to Hancock. Even if he doesn't understand romance, there are many scenes where he respects her and feels safe around her. Hugging her on Amazon Lily, surviving Marineford thanks to her, choosing the island as a safe haven for 2 years, and softening whenever he sees her. None of these are just comedic gags, they're seeds of emotional awareness. Since Luffy processes emotions slowly, this bond could grow into romance at the end. Luffy's character evolution has always followed the same cycle. Huge loss, power-up, emotional growth. Ace's death pushed him out of childhood. Training with Rayleigh built his confidence, and after Wano, he embraced his Joy Boy identity. When he fulfills his dream, the final stage arrives. Luffy stops living only for freedom and starts choosing who he shares that freedom with. In this sense, Hancock isn't the end of his journey. She's the beginning of the life that comes after it. So, the happy ending theory doesn't promise a romantic scene. It promises thematic closure. The story of the Pirate King and the Snake Princess doesn't begin on the battlefield. It begins after victory, in the epilogue. There may be no wedding, no kiss, but a quiet scene on the shores of Amazon Lily, with Luffy smiling for the first time and saying, "I'm finally free, and you can stand beside me," would be enough to break a curse that lasted 1,000 chapters. Roger started life after his journey. Luffy can do the same. Now we move to the second and much darker theory. Boa Hancock sacrifices herself in the final war. In this version, the trigger isn't Luffy realizing his feelings. It's Hancock losing control because of her feelings. The critical point is this. Her sacrifice wouldn't happen because Luffy is weak, but because Hancock reaches her emotional breaking point. Just like in the Marineford smoker scene, her instinctive rage could resurface, but this time, the moment could be deadly. That scene with Smoker was huge foreshadowing. In that moment, Hancock's expression changes, her cold, proud image collapses, and she acts on pure instinct. And she even admits, "I've never been this angry." That scene showed us Luffy being harmed is her most fragile and explosive trigger. In the final war, the same reaction could happen on a much larger scale. This time, the enemy might be Akainu, the Gorosei, Emu, or Blackbeard top-level threats, and Hancock throws herself in between without hesitation. In this theory, Luffy's condition also matters. During the final battle, he may be unconscious due to extreme effort, Gear 5 backlash, hockey exhaustion, or physical damage. Just like after Marineford, he becomes unable to defend himself. As the enemy goes for the final blow, Hancock jumps in with a single instinctive burst of emotion. This isn't a romantic confession, it's raw instinct, a sacrifice without thinking. Because Hancock's love doesn't act through logic, it acts through reflex. And here is where the theory becomes tragic. Hancock's death wouldn't be the result of Luffy's immaturity like Ace, it would be the result of Luffy's overwhelming power and recklessness. Ace died because Luffy wasn't strong enough. Hancock dies because Luffy became too strong. This is the kind of narrative parallel Oda loves. The same trauma, repeated in reverse. When Luffy wakes up and learns what happened, he wouldn't say, "I couldn't protect her." He would say, "If I hadn't become this, she wouldn't have died." The most heartbreaking part of this scenario is how it changes the history of Amazon Lily and the Kuja. Hancock's sacrifice becomes the final chapter of the lovesickness curse. The curse once killed women silently. Hancock takes it to the battlefield. The Kuja. Remember her not just as a queen, but as the legend who died fighting for the Pirate King. A statue of Hancock is erected on the shores of Amazon Lily. Luffy's fight for freedom becomes not just ideological, but fueled by loss. Ace and Hancock become the two sacred pillars of his revolution. There is major conflict between these two endings, because one represents the maturation of freedom, while the other represents the cost of emotion. The happy ending shows Luffy evolving without being chained to romance, while still becoming emotionally aware. It turns Hancock from a comedic side character into a historical figure, where freedom and love meet for the first time. The tragic ending brings a heavy emotional weight. In this version, Hancock's death is the brutal, irreversible fracture Oda may want for the Final Saga. Luffy's power and rage finally take someone's life. He embraces Joy Boy and Nika not as symbols of laughter, but with a price. This loss turns the fall of the world government into not only ideological justice, but emotional vengeance. If Ace's death made Luffy grow, Hancock's death would make him legendary. My personal opinion is this. Even if Oda doesn't explicitly define this relationship, he must give it meaning. This love isn't just part of Hancock's character anymore. It affects the fate of Amazon Lily, the fall of the warlords, the historical conflict with the world government, and the narrative momentum of the final war. Oda may not write romance as a central theme, but he can't ignore this relationship anymore. Whether happy or tragic, we need closure. The Roger parallel is also crucial. Roger began life after his adventure, his connection with Rouge, Ace's birth, the post-pirate era. Life continued after the throne. The same formula can apply to Luffy. If it's a happy ending, the scene takes place in the epilogue, not during the war. If it's tragic, the scene happens at the darkest moment of the battle. Both theories have different timing, but equal emotional weight. Now it's your turn. How do you think Luffy and Hancock's story will end? After fulfilling his dream, will Luffy finally realize his feelings and accept the love Hancock has carried for years? Or in the final war, will Hancock lose control and sacrifice herself while trying to protect Luffy in a painful but epic moment? Comment below, tell me which ending you think is more likely. If you enjoyed this theory, don't forget to like the video. For more One Piece theories, character breakdowns, and new videos, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. See you in the next one.